Great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an interesting kind of journey for you to try and encapsulate many of those trends. And what I want to share with you is a vision for the future of work that's about the collision between people, place, and technology. And this is very much the kind of the fundamentals as to how we shape this vision for where we're heading. And one of the images on that screen which might kind of jar is the jelly bean. We have this idea of jelly bean working. And look at the jelly bean, the blue jelly bean. That's about diversity and choice, because we're not bringing people into an environment where we provide them with diversity and choice. Most people who come into the office today are unhappy, right? They're sitting there, they're disengaged, they don't really want to be there. And that's a big issue in terms of how we design our workplaces. We find that Gallup, who do an annual survey of white-collar workers in offices, the figures are terrible. In North America, 77% of workers inside offices are not engaged, and 15% are actively disengaged. They're so annoyed, they don't want to be there. And have a look at the Gallup research. It's published online. And why is this? Well, because offices are expensive, we just put more and more people into less and less space, right? And that's not a great vision for how we want to create exciting workspace. So we're seeing people think a bit differently about what they want from the office, a bit more unconventional thinking. And the good news is we're bringing people back into the office. Marissa Mayer at Yahoo was famous, and now it's right across the West Coast. People want to be in the office to bump into each other, because working from home has not been seen to be great. And there are lots of problems working from home. I want to show you a quick video clip of somebody here who was live on BBC television across the globe talking about Kim Jong-un pressing the button in North Korea, and here's what happened.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies.
So he had his map of the world, you know, he's got the books he's written, and it all just goes horribly wrong. So working from home is not a great idea for many people when it's critical. So what we're now finding, and one of the areas of this talk today for you, is around what co-working is doing globally. Now, co-working has been on everyone's lips. We're all aware of people like WeWork coming into the market, but it's got much more complex globally. So this is called Second Home in London. It's one of the most exciting co-working spaces, designed by some fantastic Spanish architects, Cano. And inside is a really eclectic, exciting space for young people to kind of come together and work. And it's called Second Home because it's just that. It feels like your own home. There's great food, great atmosphere. There's even in this space a yoga class every morning on a table which cantilevers up in the mornings to free up space for classes like yoga. So Second Home is one of many examples of a trend we identified in our last book, which is the re-emergence of the guild as a new format for offices. And the guild, as you well know, which we'll come back to, was one of the early types of buildings. This is one of my favorite. Can we lose these lights at the front? Can we kind of put these lights down? This is one of my favorites. It's a place called The Battery in San Francisco. It's a really exciting space for work, founded by a guy called Michael Birch, who was Bebo. And The Battery is this incredible space for socializing, for working. You can stay there, you can exercise. It's a membership-based organization, but it's feeling more like a home than a kind of classic co-work office. So the guild, we think, is coming back. This is Salzburg, and each of those buildings was built for an individual guild, and guilds were professional organizations, so goldsmiths or tanners and so on. And we see these buildings that were created as the first commercial buildings coming back in. Now, who's heard of the Ministry of Sound? Anyone come across the Ministry of Sound? Yeah, it's a music and clubbing brand. The music label's been brought by Sony. And last month, the Ministry of Sound launched their own co-working space. The first of a huge number they're going to roll out around the globe. And it's very cool. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, fully licensed bar, DJs every night, but full workspace aimed at people in the music business, and it's already full. So people are saying, if I'm in music, I wouldn't want to just go to a WeWork, I want to go to a specialist new co-work for a particular industry, and I can do anything from actually record to screen or do a launch event. This is the Hospital, also in London. It's another co-work founded by Paul Allen, one of the founders of Microsoft, and this one is for TV, so this is for television. It's a membership club. If you're in the television industry, you join the club and you can work there, you can socialize, you can meet, but in the basement is a complete television studio. So for $300 membership, you can make a TV program in a fully state-of-the-art studio. So why join WeWork when you can join the Hospital and work with other TV executives? This is Neuhaus in Los Angeles. So here's one for the film industry. This is the old CBS building where the Beach Boys recorded, and it's now turned into the most incredible co-work space aimed at people in film. And if you kind of want to join it, you come in and there are the classic environments of lounges, co-working spaces, training rooms, private spaces, great food and drink. But what's exciting is the event space is incredible. And you can do a full film or product launch inside your own co-working space that you're a member of. So we're seeing the beginnings of specialist guilds. And one I can't show you, but called The Wing, has opened in London and New York, and it's a women's only co-work space, and I'm not allowed in, so I can't show you the images. But we're seeing all sorts of specialist areas emerging. So how do you kind of see this trend of the co-working phenomena? You've all read the press around WeWork, 23 billion valuation in a few years, and already in London, they're the biggest occupier of offices in London. Can you believe that? In New York, there are 50 WeWork locations alone. So there's a huge growth we're seeing. And the question you have to ask is, well, why do people want to join WeWork? What about that is so exciting? Well, of course, it's not the actual physical space. It's what goes inside the space. It's people and vibe and energy and atmosphere. And I think what we're finding is corporates are attracted to this because they can rub shoulders with entrepreneurs and innovators. And WeWork is extending themselves outside of just offices. This is the new Dock 72 being built in Brooklyn. It's the first purpose-built building for WeWork. This is We Live. They now have buildings where you can actually live together in your 20s. This is We Learn. They've opened a kindergarten. They've opened a gym, and they have their Creator Awards where they give away $1 million prizes for innovators. So there's a huge array of the brand that's going on, not just a kind of office. And when you look at We Live, what we predict is you'll soon get buildings where you'll work downstairs and you'll live upstairs and you'll just share the amenities, like the food and the drink and the gym and the cinema and everything else. And that's beginning. And they're very exciting. If you're 25 and you want to kind of live with people who are like-minded in a cool space with shared amenities, it's the kind of hip place to be. So what do companies do as a response? What are the corporates saying? Well, here KPMG, a huge, obviously, accounting firm, is saying we need our own co-working environment. So they've opened in Mayfair in London a club. It's about 40,000 square feet. It's only a club. There are no desks. There are no offices. Every month, about 14,000 people come in here, and you can eat, you can drink, you can meet. There's an incredible restaurant, there's a chef's table, there's a cocktail bar. And so we're seeing the idea that you've got the idea that the corporates want a members club as well. So we predict that in most offices, you're going to begin to see membership clubs as part of the office solution. And there's the chef's table in the kitchen at KPMG, and the bar and the terrace and so on. So it's a wonderful space. And clients actually say, we're going to work with KPMG because they get membership of the club. Other industries are following suit. Barclays has launched a big product, a separate building called Barclays Rise. And this is the New York one in Silicon Alley, working with tech stars to run what's called boot camps. So they want to spot their next investment in fintech and get the first option to invest in these new startups. Similarly, Rocket Space, which is the amazing San Francisco startup that is where Uber started, has now come into London, but not in a separate location. They've embedded themselves in an RBS banking building, which is now a digital banking financial workplace with Rocket Space and RBS digital people working side by side. So we're now seeing corporates wanting to inject some of this into their buildings. So buildings themselves are going to change. The first landlords and developers are now pushing up very new buildings with new formats. So the tallest building at the moment going up in London, which for those that don't know it, this middle one here, it's under construction, it'll be home to 10,000 people, one building, and the developers are putting in shared amenities at a huge scale. So all the blue floors are shared between the tenants. And there's an amazing arrival experience, an incredible market, which is kind of food and drink, a bit like Italy in New York, for those that know it. The exchange, a place to meet, the gym, the retreat, well-being and a place for mindfulness, and the club. Some of the stuff I've showed you, membership club, where you can kind of feel belonging. And the arrival experience in a new building will be very different. It'll be activated, it'll be organic, dynamic, incredible experiences as this kind of comes through. And in the gym, can you imagine a climbing wall 50 floors above the streets of London? That's on the inside of the building, I kind of hasten to add, but that's coming quite soon. And therefore, we're seeing the idea of a smart building. So most good buildings in the future will provide an app which lets their users, the tenants people, have an experience they want. So the technology is now really pushing the boundaries. And to kind of end this journey for you, I want to show you a few of the new technologies that we think are going to reshape the world of work in the next 2 or 3 years. And what's interesting to us is that digital dependents, the kind of Gen Z or Gen Z, are coming, and they're the ones that are tech savvy. And they'll begin to demand, as we've heard, a digital workplace. And we heard from Eduardo earlier on that Fortnite has kind of taken over the lives of the average 14, 15-year-old. 120-odd million people playing Fortnite and engaging in different ways to connect and communicate. And therefore, the rise of the expectation of robotics and AI is really exciting or frightening. And we heard from Matthias, but look at the figures from Davos as to when robots will